Hey, Linda!
Hello, did you miss me?
I did. You missed a great show last week.
Oh, who was on?
Julie Silber was on, the quilt historian, and I learned all sorts of stuff about antique quilts, how she got started, how to buy antique quilts. I learned all sorts of cool stuff.
I'll bet you did. So I am back at home. I was out at an event called Symposium for quilt shop owners up in Orlando, giving a little presentation, and it was nice to get out.
Yeah, I bet it was. I'm ready to start getting out too. We're gonna take my eldest son to SeaWorld at the end of the month. Yeah, so he gets to what?
That's open?
That is open, so he's going to be able to go out, and he loves SeaWorld. He loves the manatee, it comes up and swims right next to the glass enclosure and stuff. We took him when he was a year and a half, maybe 2 years old, and he just loved it. So we're really excited to take him back. And we were going to take him for his birthday this year, but obviously we didn't do that. So we're a little bit late, about 7 months late, but we'll get him back there.
I used to like going to the zoo. That's one of the places we would go when we cut out of school.
Yep, that's on the list too. San Diego has a great zoo. It's just we got to find the time to get down there because we're busy getting ready for Road in Person in January.
I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome. We just got news from the convention center like 5 minutes ago that they've started to rehire people again.
Oh, that's so awesome.
It's great. It's so great for the employees, and it's great for us because that means we can really start planning.
Yeah. Yes.
So what's the weather in Florida other than a shortage of gasoline?
Yeah. It's overcast. I think we're starting to anticipate our afternoon storms. It blows through inside of 5 minutes. So it's getting cloudy and it's getting gray.
Oh, well, that's too bad for you. It is going to be 84 degrees today. Beautiful blue, sunny skies, typical California weather.
Awesome. So we have a guest today. She's pretty cool.
She is cool. So we have Linda Pumphrey as our guest. She works for, I believe the company's name is Fibrix. They own the Mountain Mist brand of batting. So she's been working for them for a few years, but she has quite a history in the quilt industry.
Yeah, she's like an octopus. She got tendrils and everything.
She does. She's been around for well, I'm not going to say a long time. That might age her, but she knows the quilt industry very well.
And she's a lot of fun, too.
She is. She's one of my favorite quilt industry people. So, Jillian, let's get Linda on here.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Linda.
Yeah.
Where are you coming to us from?
I'm in Northwest Arkansas, and we've been gray and cloudy and rainy, but the sun's come out. So it's a good afternoon.
You look kind of cold.
Yeah, I was cold this morning when I got dressed. It was only about 50 in the house.
You live on a lake, don't you?
I do, yeah. And everything's green because we've had so much rain, so it's really pretty down here right now.
I bet it is. We have not had rain. Everything's turning brown again.
Oh.
We are considered the Golden State, but I didn't think when they named it that it'd be the Golden Brown State.
Well, and because, less people are moving around, even though Arkansas is an open state right now, the foxes and so I have a family of red foxes living in my backyard. So my mom and 2 puppies right now. So I guess that's what you call baby foxes. I don't know what else you call them.
The dog doesn't like the foxes, does she?
Well, she always goes out the front door because she doesn't do steps. And the foxes live in the backyard, so I keep them separate.
Oh, that's a good idea.
They haven't met each other yet. So the cats like to watch the fox, though, in the backyard.
Wow.
Well, cool. So you've been involved in quilting for quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, since I'm going to date myself, 1989. I was young when I joined the industry. So, and lots of changes, but all for the good, I think.
Yeah, so where did you start?
I started with Mountain Mist and worked for him for 25 years. And then I jumped and worked for AccuQuilt for almost, well, it was a little over 5 years, I think. And then I was going to retire and move to Bali, Indonesia. And then I ended up in Bella Vista, Arkansas. So somewhere along the line, I got derailed. And then since I was staying stateside, Mountain Mist hired me back. I wasn't really looking for a job, but they talked me back to work. So it's been fun being back with the brand that started me in this industry.
You've worn a lot of different hats in that journey, haven't you?
Well, yeah, mostly marketing and sales as far as my corporate jobs. But I had a mentor early on in my career, and one of the things he said is always give back, to the industry that you're involved in. And so I've been involved on several nonprofit organization boards, which I got my job through networking. Actually, my study partner when I was working on my master's of my MBA was the daughter of the owner of Mountain Mist, the brand Mountain Mist at that time. So networking got me into the industry, and so I've continued to give back, and being on boards is networking and learning from other people in the industry. So it's been very, very valuable to my career.
And you've met all fabulous people.
Yeah, one time at Quilt Market, somebody came up to me. They were across the booth, and they said, "Everybody famous has been in your booth. Do you know everyone?" I'm like who? And they were naming off all the people that had stopped at my booth, and I'm like, wow, have you been watching my booth all week or what? It was really funny. But I mean, that's this industry. I mean, it's just everybody gets to know everyone, and it's fun. It's just a blast.
Say, Linda's booth is always right on Quilt Market. She's always right on like the main road that runs through the entire show. So you always can tell when Linda's got someone there. It's a bright booth that's right on the corner. You can just right in smack in the center. So you can walk by, and Linda's always got some big name in there chatting with her.
It's just fun. They're friends. So they're just friends.
So Linda, what do you think has been the biggest evolvement in our industry?
When I started, I walked into JP Coats. When the first time I went to market on the industrial, on the industry side, not the consumer side, like festival, but market, it was all men sales reps. And I remember walking into JP Coats and saying, "Do you even have a female sales rep on your team?" And it took them about 5-10 minutes. And they said, "We do on the industrial side." We had a lady at that point. And so it was really the sales team and the people representing the corporations were mostly male. And that has changed drastically. Not that we still don't have males on the corporate, from the company side, but females have really, it's evened out to the point where I think there's more probably female sales reps. And a lot of the smaller companies, the pattern companies and the design companies and that type of thing are female owned. Your teachers are female. The other thing that has really changed is the amount of quilters, the male quilters have come on. And I think long arm helped that a lot. It's like driving a big machine. So that really brought a lot more men into the industry, I think, into quilting, which is a good thing. So it's evened out on both sides.
And you've seen a lot of change too in your times in the products that have been sold, even the color schemes we've used.
Oh, the gamut, yes. I mean, I remember early 90s, it was all those dusty blues, dusty pinks. And I remember asking VIP at that time, I'm like, I cannot find a pure orange. And they're like, you won't, it's not on the market. The only time you could find orange fabric, and it was usually a polycotton at that point, was at Halloween. They just didn't have pure, true pastels or bright colors. Everything was really, really dusty, blues and, and so, and from the batting standpoint, Mountain Mist has always made a cotton batting, but in the late 80s, early 90s, polyester was the bat, and that's changed 100% back to cotton, where cotton's now the preferred, or a cotton blend is a preferred batting type. So it's all cyclical. It all comes and goes. So,
Yeah,
and after, go ahead.
Were you going, Matt?
No, go ahead, Linda.
Is when you talk about batting, is there a trend towards a certain type of batting now? Like, is it more on the blendy side or more on the 100% cotton, or do you see a trend with that?
I think the cotton and the blend cottons are kind of merged together. Wool's really popular right now. The trend we see that really has changed is the loft. It's super thin. People want a thinner quilt, where back in the 70s or even in the 90s, we had a product out. It was a terrible name. I didn't name it, so I'm not taking claim for the name. It was called Fat Bat, but it was a really lofty bat, to make more of a comforter. A lot of people used them in baby bats because they thought they wanted a really thick batting for their baby bats. We don't have that product. We've retired that product because it's just not popular. Now, quilters, the other thing that we've seen changed on the batting side is they'll use two different types of bats. They might have a cotton base and a wool top, or 2 layers of cotton. So they will mix their battings. And that's new. That's a new trend in the last several years, probably a decade. So, yeah.
Well, that's a good thing for you guys. You sell double the batting per quilt.
Oh, yeah. We love that trend from a sales standpoint. Yeah.
And you've seen the pressing gadgets change.
Oh, yeah. We have a wool pressing mat out on the marketplace. And when they first came out, we make a product very similar to it prior to the wool pressing mat that we have out on the market now. And it was a saddle pad, because we do have a division that works in the equine industry. And I'm like, that's a saddle pad. And I brought a saddle pad home from the plant one day and pressed on it. I'm like, these really are wonderful. So, yeah, I don't know how I pressed before without it. It does make a big difference. And now we have a super big one, 24 by 48, which you guys used at Road 2 years ago. Yeah.
We took them and put them on the Costco folding 2x4 tables.
Yeah. So, so we have that size out on the market. And so as your quilt grows, we have the bigger mat. And I have put away my ironing boards. In fact, I took one to Goodwill the other day. So it's not because I stopped pressing and ironing. I just never use it. So I got rid of it.
Yeah, and I remember when my horse showing days. Now that you mention it, I've had something like that.
Yeah, it's a felted pad underneath the saddle. Yeah, before the blanket.
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, now you don't want to use that product, because what goes into that product, the wool content is not controlled as much as what we control going into we make sure we know what type of wool is going into and that it doesn't have pesticides and all that type thing. Believe it or not, on the equine, on these $1 million horses, they're not as particular. So.
So, yeah. Have you written any books?
I have. I have authored, I co-authored a book when Mountain Mist turned 150 years old in 1996 with Mary Kay Wollvogel and Vicki Paulus. And then I have a Mountain Mist historical quilt out by F&W. And then we did the red and white quilt, which the one behind me is the one my mom made for the book.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Your mom's a sweetie.
Yeah.
So the Mountain Mist quilts, those are kind of interesting. Didn't they include like a pattern instruction back in the pack of the batting?
Yeah, in 1929, the marketing manager, his name was Fritz Hooker, decided it would be a way to, in the 20s, we started seeing, the history shows that there was quilt designers like Marie Webster and Ann Orr and some others out there that were putting out quilt patterns. Before that, it was kind of just handed down by region or you designed your own. But they really started in the 20s and 10s producing quilt patterns. And so then 1929, Mountain Mist joined that gang, that theme, and then it exploded, and every farm magazine or newspaper had it in it during the 30s, but they would put a pattern on the inside of the wrapper. Now, you didn't know what pattern you were getting. So it was always a surprise. And the thought was, if you put a really enticing pattern, they'll want to make it, and then they have to go buy another batting. Because we never buy batting prior to us making the quilt top. We usually buy it after we make the quilt top. We don't buy all the fabric and the batting at the same time, it seems like. So, but then people were saying, well, I got this pattern, but I really want this pattern. So then they had to start a center called the Quilt Center, and you could mail in. They put a little coupon on the outside of the wrapper, and you can mail in and request it. And they started out at 15 cents with the coupon, and then I think it went to a quarter. But on the coupon, it said that you had to send in coins preferred. And at that time, you could send stamps in as a currency. And they didn't, if you bought several patterns, they didn't want you sending in dollar bills. They wanted coins. And I kept asking the company historian who had worked for the company like 50 years at that point. I'm like, why did the coupons say that? It always was really curious to me. And finally, and he would only share things when he thought I was worthy of getting that information. And so one day he said, you know why that was? And I'm like, no, Charlie, I've been asking you for years. He said, because the owners of the company had a coin collection. And so every Friday before they made the bank deposit of the Quilt Center's patterns, they would bring all the coins up to the president's office. He'd sort through the coins, keep the ones he wanted, and then they deposit the rest. And the family still has that coin collection. I think it's a great nephew has it or something. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of those background stories you don't know. Companies don't keep track of those. So it's as people you lose that institutional, retire and stuff. You lose that institutional knowledge. But yeah.
But you're part of an organization that helps preserve some of that knowledge, right?
Well, I'm a past president of the Quilt Alliance, which is documenting the stories of quilters and quilt makers, and with their QSOSs and their story times now and that type of thing. And then I also am on the board of the International Quilt Museum out of the Lincoln, Nebraska, out of the University of Nebraska. And I work with them really closely on their acquisition of quilts. So, and that's a fun job as their acquisition coordinator. So reaching out to quilters that are ready to downsize, or quilters that have a quilt that we need in the collection for whatever reason. We have that hole. There's over 8,000 quilts now in that collection. Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of international. Yeah, they built a big addition, new storerooms when they added the new display rooms, showrooms. So, but it didn't take long for us to start filling that up either. So, and the big Joanna Rose red and white collection is coming too. That was displayed in New York. Is going to be part of the International Quilt Museum. So,
wow.
So, very exciting.
So we get an exhibit from you guys each year too, I think.
Yeah. So we have to start working on what we're going to share for 2022 Road.
We do. And you also have a side business I don't think we've talked about.
Oh, my little English paper piecing. When I started that when I left AccuQuilt and thought I was actually retiring. And I love to English paper piece and do handwork. And I did a lot of English paper piecing when I was flying. One year I did 14 international trips for AccuQuilt. And and 5 of them were across the Pacific. So those are a little longer flights. And I did a lot of English paper piecing. And it's kind of like when you take a dog to the park. It's a conversation breaker. People will approach you. And so I'd be quilting in the airports or on the plane, and people would come up and talk to you about, and you'd find out about quilts and their family and that type of thing. But one of the funnest events was I was coming back from Germany, from the H&H Cologne show. And a lady was sitting next to me from New Delhi, India. And she said, "Do you have an extra needle and thread?" No, I was coming back from the Festival of Quilts in England. And I started laughing because on the way over, I had only packed one needle. And I took the first stitch on the way over, and the needle went flying, and we could not find it. And all 188 people on the plane, nobody had a needle. I asked. I think I asked every 188 person. So I started laughing because at the Festival of Quilts, I bought packets of needles because I was not having this problem. And it was a quilt for a book. So I had a deadline. I was way behind, where it needed to be. And English paper piecing takes a while. So I started laughing. Well, she wanted to learn how to English paper piece. So I showed her, and she made a little flower, your traditional grandmother garden type flower. And she handed it back to me, and she said, "Here, you can put it in your quilt." So it's on the back of the quilt with her signature on it. But she continued to make several flower type arrangements while we were on the plane. And they grew up to be a quilt, and she sent me a picture of the quilt.
Wow.
We kept in contact. So my mission was to teach one quilter on an airplane trip, long airplane trip, per trip. But that didn't continue very long. I succeeded, I think, on 2 or 3 trips. But it was fun. So.
Well, awesome. So getting back to some changing trends. Being in this industry as long as you've been in, you've seen the type of quilts that people make change, haven't you?
Yeah, especially contest quilts. When I first started, they were really, you still could tell the basis of the quilt was more traditional. And pictorial quilts and art quilts were not what we're seeing today. I mean, they've really changed, and techniques have changed. I mean, I remember in 1989, one of the first long arm quilts won. It was actually a domestic machine, Carol Breyer-Foward. I think she was 1989. And that year prior, the quilt in Houston, I don't remember the quilt artist's name, and I should know that. It's telling me my battery's running. Hold on just a minute, or I'll lose you. Hold on. I thought I had myself plugged in. If I lose you, I'll be right back, I promise.
I had that 2 weeks ago.
You did. We use a desktop.
Oh, sorry, I showed you my backside there. Okay, I think I'm good now. So anyway, let me make sure I'm plugged in. Am I plugged in? No. I get too many plugs. Okay. So where was I? Your question?
You're talking about Carol, the first machine quilt.
Oh yeah, in 1989, and so many quilters were up in arms that a machine quilter quilt won, because that's not a quilt. It had to be hand quilted in their opinion to qualify as a quilt. That has changed totally to where hand quilters were such a lesser percent. Now we're seeing more and more people gravitate back to hand quilt. Thank goodness. So I'm a hand quilter, so I appreciate them both.
And you juried the road contest back. Oh, I don't remember. You did 1 or 2 years, I think.
Yeah. That's always fun to see. And as a juror, I always try to pick what I think the judges are going to pick. It's just a game I play with myself as you're going through the quilts, and you're like, which one's going to make it to the top? and you kind of pick the top 10, but you're thinking, okay, out of the top 10, which one are they going to choose? And they always surprise you, because what you see in person and what you see in a photograph sometimes are, totally different, because you can't see all the nuances of the workmanship and everything in the photograph.
Where do you think the trends are going now? More towards like hand piecing, like English paper piecing stuff, paper piecing, traditional piecing, applique. Where do you think we're going?
Well, I think the quilting stitch itself still is the important part of a quilt, sometimes more than the pattern, the top of the quilt, where it was always the visual impact of the top of the quilt. But what I've really seen is how it's quilted is an integral part in what's making that an exceptional quilt. And especially with all the new ruler work we're seeing going on and that type of thing. So that is an important ingredient of a quilt today, where it almost became secondary in some years past. And I think you're right, Linda. I think the amount of piecing and that type of thing is increasing. I'm even seeing that in the modern quilts. The amount of that negative positive space is getting smaller in some cases. And I think it was partly the modern quilt movement that also made that quilting valuable to a quilt, because they had all this negative space. They had room to really shine on the quilting side of it.
Do you think COVID is going to give us some new quilters?
I do. The number one search term in March and April last year was sewing machine on Amazon. People needed sewing machines to make masks. And those people that got back into sewing because they were making the face mask, I think there are going to be a certain percent that move over into quilting. Quilting, we hear a lot of times, is something I'm going to do when I retire because I have the time and the money. And the kids are starting their own families, and I have a reason to make a quilt. I have a new baby grandniece or wedding quilts and that type thing. So, but I think it's moved up that timeline a little bit, because now
we always used to say that the best time to catch a new quilter is when the kids have left home, but prior to the first grandchild being born. And that little window, whether it be 1 year, 5 years, 7 years, however long it is, that is the window where you can get a new quilter going, because then they graduate to the baby quilts and stuff, but that's also their highest earning years.
Yeah. So I do think COVID's going to bring some new people into sewing, which will eventually get them into quilting.
So hopefully all you quilters will bring a new quilter to Road in Person and show them the world that they can expand into.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions for Linda, go ahead and put them in the chat. I know we had a comment from Karen talking about her first class was hand piecing and quilting, and then she switched to machine. I think that's a natural progression that a lot of people have tried, where they start with the hand and then they figure out how much quicker it is to run it through the machine.
Yeah, and machine piecing has always been accepted. Well, not always, but I mean, in 1989, when the quilt top was machine quilted, that was the controversy, not that it was machine piece. So, in fact, in early 1980, I think it was 1983, we had Mountain Mist had an article in an advertisement that said 700 hours by hand, 70 hours by machine, and promoting machine quilting ahead of its time. So yeah, it's always a lot. And now with the long arms and the speed of domestic machines, even quilting on a machine is much faster, unless you're doing a lot of the intricate real work.
Gee, Linda, my phone rang, then your phone rang.
I have mine turned off, so we're okay. We won't get a trifecta going here.
The sad part is my husband is in the garage listening to it ring. He won't answer it. He said it's not for him, so he doesn't answer it.
Is it a
Oh,
landline?
that's great.
Yeah.
Do you have a landline still?
Yeah. I'm very old-fashioned. A
secret.
Yeah. And okay.
Well, Linda, is there anything else you want to share with our audience?
No, I'm just excited that Road to Person's coming back in 2022, and hope everyone is there because I know it'll be great. And stay well.
And we can help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can finally be around each other again.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
I think the last time I saw you was October of 2019.
Yeah.
It's been too long.
Yeah, it sure has. So, yeah. And
Jill's asking about your red and white quilts.
Actually, the red and white quilt book was based on the 88 quilts, red and white quilts that were at the International Quilt Museum. And both the Mountain Mist historical quilts and the red and white quilt book were done as fundraisers, or proceeds of the profits from those books were donated back to the International Quilt Museum. So it was one of my ways to give back as an author. So that was always fun. But I took the different patterns off their quilts and designed 14 new quilts. And then out of the 14 new quilts, they all have 3 different versions. So you can make a lot of different versions. But it had, I should know this. I think it has 40 quilt blocks, and then how you can build quilts using all those blocks.
Jill, you should be tired. Do any of them include red work? Oh.
No, in fact, the quilt behind me, when I was being interviewed once about the quilt, they're like, "Oh, and you included red work." Well, I did not quilt the quilts. I have a really good friend that did all the long arming on the quilts for me, and she's not afraid to use colored thread. And so this one actually has red thread, as you can tell in the center and some of the motifs. And they thought it was red work, but it's actually color thread. And she used color thread on a lot of my quilts, and she's much more adventurous. I would tell her I would want the feel of how I want the quilting done, but I didn't micromanage it. So I told her I wanted something fun in the white areas because she knew they were going to be photographed, and by using colored thread. So on the red and white, she only ventured out to red thread or white thread, but she would pop. I'm very traditional, so I would have used red on red and white on white. But so she stretched my boundaries a little bit. So, but and when I first see them, I'm kind of like shocked when I'd go over and pick them up. I'm like, wow, use red thread. But I've really grown to like where she used the alternate color. And then on the Mountain Mist, she would use some really interesting thread colors on the quilt tops. And I think there's only one that really hasn't grown on me. But other people love it. So it's just, my traditional base. So
yeah. I always like getting the quilts back from the long armor because yes, I have a long arm, and no, I don't use it. I look at it, and I like getting them back because you're just like, wow, my quilt now has a life.
Yeah. So yeah, it was always fun. One time I went to Houston, and I was determined to get the quilt top done. It was for book, and I was determined to get it done before I left. Well, the longer I quilt, and I quilted till 4 o'clock when I had to leave for the airplane. Well, the longer between midnight and 4 o'clock, the more I quilted, the more mistakes I made. So the quilt top it didn't get finished that night. But it was laying in the middle of my living room floor as I was putting all the blocks and everything together. And I must have been so tired that when I left, I did not close the front door. Now I have a screen door. It was closed, but my front door was wide open. So I had asked my mom to go pick up my cat, because I was going to be gone for 2 weeks and she was going to watch my cat. And she said, but I don't have a key to your front door. And I'm like, yeah, you did. But I didn't really argue with her because I knew she had a key, but she just didn't think she had a key. So I called my key lock guy, who I've gotten to be really good friends with. And I said, would you go make me a new key? So all I had to do was take a picture of the key and he could drill a new key, or whatever, however you make keys. And so he said, I'll meet your mom over at the house. Well, he got there first and he would not let my mom in the house because the door was wide open. They thought that somebody had broken in. And he said, no, everything seems to be, good, except there's a quilt in the middle of the living room floor, which as quilters, don't we all have quilts in the middle of your living room floor or bedroom floor or something? I mean, so my mom didn't think that was so unusual. She said, oh yeah, she's working on one. So, but I live in such a safe neighborhood that for a week, nobody came and broke in. Now I try to make sure the door's closed.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
What's
well,
next?
Linda, I thank you for your time.
Oh, you're more than welcome. This has been fun.
It's been great to see you. I know getting some of the folks from the International Quilt Study Center is on our list to do. So it'd be great to kind of a combined thing, have you doing acquisitions and the director on there to kind of chit chat and talk about the center on here. So we'll hopefully get to do that in a future show.
That would be great.
Let's see. Up next, Jillian, what do we have? Oh, hold on. I'm looking. Oh, we have a product review with Stevie Graves. So let's get Stevie on. Thank you, Linda, again.
Thank you, everyone,
for joining us. And if you have any questions for Linda, you could email us here in the office and we can forward them along to her. I don't think Jillian has an email address to put up here on the public side. But go ahead and email us here at info@roadtocalifornia.com. We'll forward them along to Linda. And buy your batting from Mountain Mist. I'm sure Linda would appreciate that. And up next, let's get Stevie on here to talk about, I think she's reviewing a book.
Hello. How are you,
Hello.
Miss Linda?
Hey, thank you for filling in for me last week.
Oh, that was fun. But we missed you. But, Linda Pumphrey was saying that she sells papers for doing English paper piecing. So this is one of her packages. 50 hexagons. 50 hexagons. 50 hexagons. 50 hexagons. I think I like her papers. And I actually I think I must have saved these because of the plastic bag, because I just found them yesterday in an unrelated box that was next to my in my circle of influence, which is what my husband calls the garbage that surrounds me on where I sit on the sofa. So, okay, today we are going to talk about a book. Here we go again. Many Wonderful Curves, done by Jenny Padago, Helen Robinson, and Sherilyn Mortensen. And Matt and I are very familiar with these three ladies because they are vendors at Rode, but they also teach long arm quilting for us. And so we always know that if we get in a bind, that one of these three is always there to help us out in the long arm world. And they also teach from their many books that they have. Okay, I always, or at least in the last 3 years, I've been telling my friends, I don't need any more ideas. Thank you very much. I have enough quilts in my head and enough plastic containers of UFOs. I don't need any more ideas. Then I looked at this book, and there are about 5 quilts in this book that I want to make. They are just, their quilts are all a little modern, but they're all done using this ruler. Well, you can't hardly see. It's got a curved groove in here that you can cut out, and it's got lots of markings that the patterns describe. This is the mini ruler, and this is the larger ruler. I had a larger ruler to do another one of their patterns, and I broke it. Now, it's not a flaw in the ruler itself. It's a flaw in my thinking. I put the ruler between piles of fabric and then threw that in my suitcase because I was going to a retreat. And so there's not much space in between here or between here. So do what you should always do if you're going to pack a ruler. Put it against something that's completely flat so all the rulers are supported. So that's my thing about rulers, because I did buy a new ruler. Now they have a third ruler out, and it has some of the same markings, but they're quilts, and what you cut out of these rulers are this shape and this shape. Traditional drunkard's path, or when I teach this pattern on cruise ships, I called it the cruise ship walk because it's like this. It's same as drunkard's path, but their quilts always have a very modern twist to them. Let me see if I can find one to show you. This one I really like that one.
That's pretty.
And it's all cut with this ruler. So, but what really, really rang my chimes was the flying geese. And look how funky those flying geese are. Aren't those flying geese fun?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's done again, these same 2 pieces. And it's just the way you cut them after you sew them together. But there are other ways of cutting these 2 pieces, but they make it so easy because of the excellent markings on their rulers. Now, everything in this book is cut with the smaller ruler, but they have other books and other patterns. So I would suggest that you go on to their website, which is sokindofwonderful.com, and you can see the other books and the other patterns that they have. I have several because, as I said, I just love their appeal. Buy a ruler safe, absolutely. That's probably one of the very few things that I don't own, and I guess maybe I better add that to my list. Thank you, Sarah. You're absolutely right on. Very often when I'm going to a retreat, I go to a retreat after Road to California. So I'm packing for almost 2 weeks at Road and then a week of retreat outside of San Francisco. So my space is limited, but my husband comes. So he, for some reason he needs an extra suitcase. He can carry it. So anyway, I would suggest you all try these products from the So Wonderful. Matt and I call them the So Wonderful girls, but and I don't like it when somebody calls me a girl, but they are so wonderful. So,
and will they be vending this year? Do you know?
I believe so, and I believe that they are also on the list for teaching. Okay.
Awesome. See, Jill wants to know: are the leaves appliqued?
No, they are not. Let me see if I can find that one again. No, it is. Those leaves are not applique. They are set in because those leaves are 2 of these units sewn together and then cut down a little bit. So I was going to sew last night, and then I don't know. The TV and a bowl of ice cream was calling my name, so I didn't sew last night. But no, none of it's applique. It's all pieced in.
Excellent. Cool.
You know, in our next segment coming up here pretty quick, one of our finished projects is a quilt designed by Helen and Jenny.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, from a class they took at Rhodes. So should we get started?
Yes, absolutely. I want to see it.
All right, let's put it up there, Jillian. All right, so this is from Sally. This project is the Christmas Ornament Quilt. It was a 2019 class she took at Rhodes, California with Jenny Bowker.
That is really cute.
Yes.
It is very cute. Now, if you don't know who Jenny is an Australian quilter that we bring over generally when the tent makers fly over from Egypt. Jenny comes with them from Australia. Kind of a mind twist there, but Jenny actually was one of the people who found the tent makers in Cairo when she was an ambassador's wife for one of the Middle Eastern countries. So she's known the men for a very long time. So if you know the men are coming to Rhodes, there's a really good chance that Jenny's coming too.
And Jenny's an outstanding teacher, and she's retired except for Rhodes, California.
She is. We have this really great habit of pulling teachers out of retirement.
Yes.
Maybe it's the weather in Southern California. Who knows?
Yes. It has been in the past.
It has been. Yep.
Yes.
So we'll keep hoping. All right, Jillian, let's finish project number 2.
Ooh.
And here it is. Pineapples, Linda. Carol made this one. It's called the Mod Pineapple class. So in January of 2017, Helen Robertson taught this class with her sisters and used the Quick Curve ruler. I finished the project and had it quilted by Chris Barlow. I was in the South Bay Quilters Guild 2018 quilt show, and it won a 3rd place ribbon in the medium pieced quilt category.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things about the ruler that Stevie's actually showing, is that the mini one, Stevie?
This is the mini one. And I just realized if I put the paper behind it, you could actually see the lines.
Yeah, one of the great things about their rulers, and we'll try and get them on here as a guest in the future, is it's not like a one and done ruler. They're constantly designing patterns for those rulers. Yes. So it's a fantastic product. So look at that. We have the product review and the quilt of this from the same people.
Yeah.
We do such great planning.
Do we know the guest next week?
No.
Jillian, do we know the guest?
No.
Oh, so we have a giveaway that's going to happen from this show. So Jillian's going to throw the link up right now so you can take a look. Stevie, what are we giving away? Because I don't even know.
We are giving away a copy of this beautiful book.
Ooh.
Look at that. So if you want to enter to win that book, click on that link. Jillian will also put it in the comments file so you can get to it if you're watching later on. Enter to win, and we will announce the winner of that drawing on next week's episode.
I'd also like to thank Fox Chapel Publishing for providing this door prize.
Yes, thank you to Fox Chapel. They have been a great sponsor of ours thus far.
They have been.
And whoever wins that can make me just a little pineapple quilt so I could hang it on my door.
Make sure you make the pineapple upside down for Linda.
You frisky lady.
I'm learning.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to throw the link. If you have a finished project that you want to have seen on It's So Rhodes, there is a link in the show comments here. There's the finished project link. And it could be from any road to California all the way back to 1989. So if you've got that old quilt you made back in the early or in the late 80s, early 90s, we want to see it. So go ahead and submit it there. We'd love to hear about all your pastimes at Road to California. So Linda, we have a guest next week, don't we?
We do.
Yeah, a mystery guest.
Yes, it's a big mystery.
It is a true mystery.
Yeah, we do.
Great. Well,
It's a
tune in
mystery.
next. Yes, it is a mystery. Tune in next week at 11 a.m. Pacific. I almost made it too early. 11 a.m. Pacific for the next week's episode of It's So Road. And stay tuned to the Road to California newsletter where we will announce our mystery guest.
We should remind everybody that one of our upcoming episodes, probably the end of June, we have all our spouses coming on, and they will answer your questions, what it's like to live with us. My husband will lie to you and tell you that that's why he drinks, but we know you won't believe him. But we also have some Zoom training coming up for Road at Home. If you would like some additional help, you can join us on Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific. 1 o'clock Pacific. And on Saturday, Jillian will put the times up.
Yep.
And
We'll be sending out an email newsletter with that details tomorrow.
And you can still sign up for classes for Road at Home also.
You can. You can still sign up for classes and lectures for Road at Home, all the way up till the start of them for the classes and lectures that are available right now, because they don't require a kit. So as long as you have a well-stocked sewing room, you can sign up. And if you don't have a well-stocked sewing room, you can sign up and then you can go shopping.
that works.
So we're going to end it today with a picture that I would like to contribute. It is a beautiful Southern California day. So what do you do with three little boys? You put them on the swing set. So Jillian, let's take a look. And there they are on their swing set, swinging away. So you see Braden on the right. I think you have Owen in the middle and Oliver on the opposite side. But I will double check that because I could be saying the wrong thing and then I'll get in trouble. So let me just double check. What, Jillian?
I think you're right.
Am I right? Look at that. I'm right. That's a miracle. So there is your picture of the day. The boys are very happy playing in the southern. No, I was not right.
What?
That is Oliver in the middle. Yep, that is Oliver in the middle. So there you go. So that is your picture of the day of beautiful, sunny Southern California with the boys playing on the swing set. So tune in next week at 11 a.m. I'm sure we'll have plenty more photos and fun to share. So thank you for joining us. Stay safe, wear your mask, and get your vaccine.
Yes. So
All
happy.
right.
So happy.
Yep. Everyone stay safe.